All right, guys, we got to get started. As you all know, we have an online community who is patiently waiting for us to get it together. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Morning Forum. I am today's facilitator. My name is Winston Robinson. Co-facilitators, Ms. Laura McCletty, Ms. Carlenia Ivory Canty, Ms. Jackie Edwards Walton, Ms. Natalie McElrath, Mrs. Mary Johnson, Mr. Steve Johnston, our website editor, and absent today is Ms. Sharitha Sherrill, who is our chaplain. Our forum runs from 8:30 a.m., concluding at 9:45 a.m., at which time we will pause for announcements from the audience. Announcements can be also sent to Steve Johnston at sjohnston@tuesdayforumcharlotte.org. We always begin with a prayer. As I mentioned earlier, Ms. Sarita Sherrill is absent today, so we're going to have Ms. Stephanie Hand lead us in a word.
Let's pray. God of grace and God of mercy, we're so grateful for this privilege of being in assembly once again on the foundations of Miss Sarah Stevenson as she dreamt, and a collaboration dreamt of a way of gathering and informing community. So God, we ask that you would continue to bless our time here and in the future as we continue to grow, to learn, and to act. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. And right now, we always take a moment for silence. Give you a second to silence your phones. Put them on vibrate. Make sure we keep disruptions to a minimum during our forum. Do we have anybody new attending for the first time? If you would please stand and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lori Spratley. I'm the CEO of Bryce Rose Capital, along with its portfolio companies, RJ Leeper and Bryce Homes. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. My name is Roosevelt St. Louis. I'm the owner of St. Louis Property Carolina, a commercial real estate firm here in Charlotte on the South. We'd love to be with you all.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Roosevelt St. Louis.
okay, today our esteemed guest is Mr. Molcomb Coley of the Mayor's Racial Equity Initiative. Following his presentation, we will take questions from our audience. Please raise your hand and we will answer the question. We will get to you in the order in which we call your name. Questions should be less than 30 seconds or no more than 30 seconds. And this is not a moment to make a stand, ask your question, get in, get out. And once Mr. Coley responds to your question, that is the response. It's not a back and forth. It's not a debate. So with no further ado, please welcome Mr. Molcomb Coley.
That breakfast is being...
Oh, yes. Today, I'm sorry, please, if you haven't had the opportunity to grab you some breakfast. Breakfast today was sponsored by Mr. Gary Young and provided by Global Flavors Catering. Thank you.
Yeah, and breakfast is the most important part of the day. So, but most importantly, good morning, and Ms. Sarah and all. Thanks for having me here this morning. As mentioned, my name is Molcomb Coley, and I wear a number of different hats. But this morning, I want to talk about the Mayor's Racial Equity Initiative. And to give you a little bit of background, if you go back to the unfortunate murder of George Floyd, our mayor, Vi Lyles, came to the business community and said, "Hey, we need to do something." And she asked the business community to stand with her. And what we asked her to do was to come up with some big and bold ideas. And so Brian Moynihan, who was chairing the CEOC, the Charlotte Executive Leadership Council, which is a group of business leaders, asked me, would I be willing to lead this? And I guess they felt that I had the most social capital in the business community to pull this together. So we did what we call at my day job at EY in our innovation center. We pulled together a bunch of constituents with the mayor and our innovation district, and we did what we call a design session in which we pull all these great, big, bold ideas out of the mind of Vi Lyles. And before I get into the four we landed on, it's not intended to be all inclusive. There's a lot of different things that have went on for hundreds of years that we're trying to solve. And so after we spent a number of us in the community, both from the faith community, higher ed, business, nonprofit, community leaders, we did this design session and came up with the big bold ideas that the mayor had in her mind, and that what we call the four priority areas she wanted us to focus on as a community in a private partnership. And so we spent about 14 months really building out a roadmap and a work plan for what we label as the four different areas of opportunities. One was Johnson C. Smith. The mayor's vision was, here we have an HBCU right here in our backyard. How do we ensure that Johnson C. Smith become a top 10 HBCU? And so we set up a work stream for Johnson C. Smith, again, comprised of others in higher ed, the faith-based, healthcare, community leaders, both public and private. And they worked on that for about 14 months to build out a roadmap for what we want Johnson C. Smith to be, a top 10 HBCU. The second work stream was the digital divide. We wanted Charlotte to be the most digitally connected city in the country. And so we built the work stream around the digital divide. And then the third area was the corridors of opportunity, where the mayor identified the 6 corridors of opportunity, Beatties Ford, West Boulevard, those particular areas that have been marginalized and not given the same amount of resources and attention. And how do we build businesses up and build those communities and create opportunities for those in those communities? So that was the third. And then the fourth one was employer commitment. How do we hold employers of these companies in town committed to raising the level of opportunities for Black and brown individuals to the C-suite level and to the executive suite level? So those are 4 priorities. And again, there's a lot of other things we could have focused on. We didn't want to get too broad where we begin to diminish what we're trying to accomplish. And then we spent the next 4 months building out budgets. And we built out the 4 budgets, and we built out budgets of $250 million, $250 billion. So in essence, we wanted Charlotte to be the model city around racial equity. And I would tell you, no other city in this country has done what we have done under the leadership of Mayor Vi Lyles. We've had, I've been on many calls and meetings with many cities, from Philadelphia to Atlanta to Greensboro and many other cities, asking us how were we able to pull this off. Big, bold ideas, trying to help solve some of the racial inequities in this community. So we went out to raise the funding, and it was $100 million on the public side, $150 million on the private side. I'm glad to say that we exceeded on the public side $157 million. We again, it was 1/5. We did 157. We're still raising money, for that. And then on the public side, we're at 80 million, but we still have a path to get the other 20 million. The 157 million that we raised on the private side was the largest fundraiser in the history of Charlotte. And so a lot for all of us to be extremely proud about. And I would tell you, if it was not for the big, bold ideas of the mayor, this would have never happened. And I would tell you, if you go back, you have to go back pretty far if you could have found a mayor that could have pulled this off. I mean, this mayor has so much grace and so much respect for the business community that I don't think that there was anyone else that could have pulled this off. And so we've started the implementation of the different work streams. Sorry.
No.
Okay, so we started the implementation of these different priority areas. Johnson C. Smith is heading in the right direction. And again, for Johnson C. Smith, we had a goal of $80 million. We raised $82.5 million for Johnson C. Smith. And what we want to do with Johnson C. Smith is to align Johnson C. Smith up with the jobs of the future. We're not going to lose its liberal arts history, but at the same time, we want to make sure that they have degrees around STEM, healthcare, business, data analytics, the jobs of the future, where companies are providing these jobs. In addition, you had 5 executives in this community have agreed to join the board of Johnson C. Smith, 5 very senior individuals, which really up that board caliber. And again, Johnson C. Smith is heading in the right direction, and we're on pace to do what we set out to do. In addition to the $82.5 million that we raised, we have a commitment of hiring 200 Johnson C. Smith kids every year and full-time jobs as well as interns. And so that is also headed in the right direction. Again, making sure that all these kids have an equitable opportunity to be successful. And then for the digital divide, we got that rolling. And we did a study on the digital divide. There's 55,000 households that did not have a good new workable computer. And then about approximately 40,000 that did not have internet connectivity broadband. And so we started that particular work stream. We're well on the way there. We got kicked off with 10,000 laptops for Bank of America. And to date, we've distributed 20-something thousand laptops in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County. And I think the number around internet connectivity is 15 to 20,000 that did not have internet connectivity there now. It's a 5-year plan. Again, we want Charlotte to be the model city for other cities to look at and role model after. And so we're really excited about that. And then we have the corridors of opportunity where we have raised, the goal there is over $100 million to support Black and brown businesses in these corridors of opportunity. We did distribute some funding in the last couple of months under the Beyond program that was established by the initial $20 million from Wells. They distributed $5.9 million to a number of businesses. And then with the work we're doing with the city and providing grants and funding to grow and scale these businesses. So really excited about the direction that we're heading there as it relates to the corridors of opportunity. One of the things when we went on the tour for raising the funds, we emphasized to the community was that this is a down payment. You know, it took us centuries to get to where we're at as a community, and it's going to take us decades to get out of it. This initial $250 million, when I was meeting with the CEOs and others in the community, it was, hey, this is a 5-year plan. And what we as a community need to be able to do is to show outcomes and results of the initial $250 million investments, so that 3 years, 4 years from the implementation of these strategies, we can go back to the business community, show them the outcomes, show them the advances that we've made in the corridors of opportunity at Johnson C. Smith, and how we're ensuring that Charlotte become the most digitally connected city in the country, and then the employer commitment and how we are hiring these students, Black and brown students, out of Johnson C. Smith, as well as out of Queens University and UNC Charlotte, CPCC as well. And then we'll be able to go back, and then we will get into, phase 2. How do we take what we accomplished in the initial Males Racial Equity Initiative to the next level? So, overall, I'm extremely pleased with what we've been able to accomplish. It's all in the execution. When we started this, my whole conversation with the different 90 constituents that work to build these work streams out was that building out the roadmaps and the plan was easy. Building out and raising the funds was easy. The actual execution is where the challenge is going to be. We're going to need to execute, and I think, and I'm highly confident that we can. And so that was the 4 areas. But just as a reminder, what the mayor did and what we did in recent years around affordable housing, where the city did the bond offering, $50 million, business community stepped over $250 million, so a total of $300 million. That's why we did not go, because there was already a work vision for affordable housing, and then most recently we did another $50 million as well. And also what the business community did when it came to COVID, we did the COVID relief funding, and we also did, we have done pre-K as a business community. So I think we got some hands up. So let me stop there and answer any specific questions they may have.
Thank you, Ms. Nathalie. So you
Yes, we could.
All right, we're going to take this time for questions, and we have a list. If you have questions, please raise your hand, and I will write them down. But first, we have Ms. Jackie Walton.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself from just very young, moving up?
No, absolutely. I probably should have started it off. So again, my name is Molcomb Coley. I grew up in Eastern North Carolina, Goldsboro. Grew up in a single family household of 8, single parent, 8 kids, and all, with the exception of 1, went off to college. 4 went off and got master's degrees. And the one that didn't go to college went and served the country for 24 years in the military. I went to UNC Wilmington, left Wilmington and joined Ernst & Young, where I have been for 32 years. And I serve as the managing partner here in Charlotte, but my region covers Minnesota all the way down to Florida. And so for those, Ernst & Young is a global professional services firm. I'm part of the executive team. We're a $50 billion organization in 150 countries with 360,000 employees. So that's what I do in my day job until the mayor and Kay, they pour me in and making me do all this other stuff, which I'm more than happy to do. But that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Ms. Carlene Yarvey.
Good morning. I want to say first, thank you. I had an opportunity to be here when the businesses were at Johnson C. Smith. But I have so many questions, and we're not permitted but to ask them. So anyway,
You can come back.
Okay. And I think I heard, one of my questions is, you talked about all the people who actually got together to make this happen. I'm really concerned about the community people that were a part of this. I'm, not sure that I'm aware of many of the community people who were part of it then and who are part of it now. And, I graduated from Johnson Smith 50 years ago last year. Oh, wow. But yet still, what I see on Beattysport Road is the same. And I know this is for Johnson C. Smith. I'm not sure, but I don't think a lot of this money is for structure. And there's a lot of areas falling apart on that campus. And that community component, I think I heard you say 250,000. Did I hear you?
250 million total.
No, but how much is, but anyway, I would like to know more about the community component, who's involved, who's engaged, how is that going to be? And you said it's a 5-year process.
Mm-hmm.
When is that process going to start? How are the people within this room and within the community going to be a part of it and be engaged in it? Because we have a tendency to set money goes the same old.
Yeah. No. There's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot of, but thanks for the question. Right. For Johnson C. Smith, this is all for academics. It's specifically for academics and building out the academic curriculum. Now, as far as infrastructure on Johnson C. Smith, around on Beatties Ford Road, now there was a group of us that wanted to recreate a Black Wall Street there, including myself, Miss Spratley, Lloyd Yates. We were going to put our own money and our own capital and build a $50 million structure right there and move all Black businesses into Beatties Ford Road. And we were going to buy a piece of property. We thought we had an agreement, and they said no. Yeah, and this was our $50 million of our own personal money that we were going to put up and build that infrastructure. So, you know, you could talk to leadership there. You could talk to their board as to why they got to the yes, then the no, then the yes, then the no again. But I can get you a list of the different individuals on the different work streams that are working, whether it's the digital divide, the corridors of opportunity, and that at Johnson C. Smith. Again, there are so many structural issues in society that needs to be addressed. We cannot address them all. We just couldn't. And so, you know, these are the four, you know, that came out of the mayor's, the big, bold ideas that the mayor wanted us to address.
Miss Nathalie.
I had the same question that Jackie had to find out a little bit about your background, because if I understood what you said, your sociability was your primary asset. The job you had, I was wondering what you were doing that you were so social. But so I'll answer a different one. Who were the laptops given out to?
I mean, they were given out to folks in the community. It was 27,000 been given out to date. I mean, there's a process they have to apply. It's a need. It's more of a need base. I mean, it didn't go to Miles Park. I could probably tell you that. But it was a need based process. And again, we did a study. It was a comprehensive study, and it's 55,000 computers that will be provided to the community. I mean, you think about the need of. I mean, without a computer, you're not connected to the world. Kids can't do their homework. We're now in the telemedicine. You can't apply for a job anymore. Nobody take paper application. And so the greater need, and that was a three-pronged approach to the digital divide. It was not just the hardware and the access, but also the literacy. And so we did set up the Center of Digital Literacy to help work with individuals to understand how to use the computer. If they have problems with the computers, get it fixed, et cetera. So there's three pieces to it.
Christy.
Thank you for coming today. My question, you said that this initiative was born out of the unrest around George Floyd.
No, let me clarify. So after George Floyd, the mayor came to the business community and said, hey, we need to do something around racial equity. And this was, again, bold ideas that the mayor had. And then she came to the business community and we said, look, let's ideate your ideas. And so that was the creation. All of this was the creation and the mastermind of the mayor. And the business community and others stepped up to ensure that we were going to be successful in this.
I guess my question is, help me understand how these business initiatives help disrupt the violence, that the very real threat that Black and brown people face in our communities today.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And again, if you recall, we focus on four things. I mean, we can go down a path of 100 things, and what you're saying, they're all relevant, very relevant into our community. But we focus on four things that came out of the design session that we had with 90 constituents in the community to come up with these ideas.
I got a question. So when we talk about that connectivity to Uptown with Johnson C. Smith, it's very much important. As an HBCU alum, I know also the connectivity and integration with Johnson C. Smith going the other way is also as important. However, it's a bit more difficult to quantify confidence and quantify connectivity to a community. So I wanted to know, is there alignment there with the corridors of opportunity as well as the initiatives to lift Smith to bridging the gap with communities so they would know, the connection between West Charlotte and Johnson C. Smith, and when they graduate and become working citizens, they'll have that appreciation for community and want to matriculate back into it?
Yeah, no, good question. One of the things we focused on was around sustainability, around synergies, as we implemented these different big, bold ideas. And so one of the things, when you talk about Johnson C. Smith, we're talking 200 of their kids getting internships and jobs to integrate into the community. And now, would we hope that when they got those jobs and are working for the big companies and the small companies here in town, would they engage back into the community? Absolutely. And so, but it's our hope that they will. And then there's, with the new med school, there's going to be a pathway for students that are interested in healthcare to go through Johnson C. Smith and then into the healthcare field with the new med school coming up. There's a program where the integration of Atrium have built a health service at Johnson C. Smith. So the goal is to ensure that there's connectivity, amongst all of these different initiatives. Again, there are so many different things that has to happen in this community. Our goal was not to try to address everything, because if we try to do 100 different things, we wouldn't be successful. And keep in mind, we raised $250 million for these initiatives. No other community in this country has ever done what we did.
Mr. Combs?
I'm sorry I'm late. But what y'all talking? No.
First of all, an alpha man is never late.
That's right. I'm well ahead of these times.
There you go.
But unfortunately, I've been around too long to have seen some of the same practice going full circle and asking for the same things that we sought 40 years ago. I'm encouraged by your comments as I was coming in. Unfortunately, you mentioned Johnson C. Smith University and training folks for jobs. Like Carlene, my classmate, I came out 51 years ago.
Yeah, he's older. We know. Go ahead.
I might be older, but I did learn English well. And the first words out of the JCSU valedictorian's lips at her commencement speech a year ago was, "I seen." Johnson C. Smith has eliminated its education program, has no plan to bring one back. And their intent is to train children, come into Johnson C. Smith and be prepared for the jobs to come. Unfortunately, somebody has to train those kids before they're ready to go to take those jobs. And Smith was the premier teacher education program among the top ones in the state. And they chose to eliminate it rather than to strengthen it. My question to you is, considering the past, how much do you see of the past still existing 40 years later in the present? And are you going to throw away money like Project Live did, end up saying, "Oh, that was nice, $55 million folks to manage a program that flunked"? So where are you?
Yeah. So when we went to Johnson C. Smith, our goal was not to discontinue the liberal arts majors.
Well, that's done. That's a done.
Yeah. No, our goal is, what I can speak to is, how do we align them with job of the future? And as an employee, I hired a couple of kids this past summer. And I can tell you, Bank of America hired a lot of kids this past summer, as well as a lot of other companies, Ally and so forth. These are high-paying jobs, jobs of the future, STEM, business, healthcare, etc. And so that's what we wanted to focus on. We did a study of this community and said, where are the jobs of the future? And those are the areas where the jobs of the future are here today. What they did 40, 50 years ago, well, I was born when I was a kid. I can't focus. What I could focus on. And so that's what we're focused on, of the jobs of the future. And we've hired these kids and given them an opportunity to compete in the current society.
Chris? Chris, I'm sorry. Chris Penn.
Going back to that Black Wall Street it seems like I guess with Charlotte, there's no place here where the Black dollars are circulated in the community. You have to go outside and get it. Is that because
Can you speak up, Chris?
Can you take your mask
Remove-
off?
it seems it's nowhere where our dollars are circulated, where it doesn't go outside. Even just looking at different publications, Charlotte magazines, like none of the communities are ever missing anything in magazines. What is the whole building bust? Like why was that blocked? You know?
I mean, I would ask you to go talk to Johnson C. Smith leadership and their board. Again, I was, I can't speak to why they made that decision. But I can say is that what we try to do with our own private dollars was to rebuild a Black Wall Street on that side of town. So I would say go talk to their board and go talk to their leadership and ask them. I was one that was gonna help build this Wall Street, and we were gonna put in restaurants that were gonna be owned by people that live off in the Batesville area. I convinced Bank of America, who don't build any more retail operations, they were gonna put a full retail operation in this building. And I sat down with Mr. Morningham, and he said he wanted everybody that worked in that retail operation to live and walk from that area. So we were there. So I cannot speak on behalf of the of the Johnson C. Smith leadership and their board. So I would say go talk to them, and they can speak for themselves. But let me go back and address this young man's question, because sometimes we're our own worst enemies. We are our own worst enemies. When I say that we're looking at jobs of the future, I hired a couple of kids out of Johnson C. Smith, and the banks we're paying these kids $80,000 a year. $80,000 a year, which I can't explain what his we cannot be our own worst enemies. We cannot be our own worst enemies. What we need to do, we need to coalesce together, look at systems and structures that have held us back, and coalesce together. Coalesce together. But when we fight ourselves, we're doomed to lose, period.
So we got Ms. Mary, then Gerard, then Ms. Jackie.
Okay, I want to ask about, I understand what y'all would be doing for Johnson C. Smith, but I live along the corridor also, and I'm the president of my neighborhood association. So the things that you're saying, we don't get this communication. How do you engage with the community so that we know what's going on, and who are your contacts in the community? Who are you working with in the community? We don't know what's going on.
Right. So again, there are the 4 different priority areas, and we had teams working on all of the priority areas. Could we do a better job of communicating? I'll take that back to the different work teams. I know we are in the process of preparing a communication document that we can communicate to the community as to what those 4 priority areas are and the successes that we've had. But there were 90 individuals, both in the public, private sector, community leaders, healthcare, higher ed, that came up with these 4 priority areas. Some are in this room, but I'll let them decide if they want to communicate themselves. So we had individuals that participated in this. And so, again, let's not let perfection get in the way of the greater good.
No, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
It's just, you know, I guess maybe they just don't spread the information out in the community. I don't know what's going on with that.
All right.
Let me say something. I'd just like to take a privilege. You said there are some individuals in this room right now that were part of that 90 people.
Yes.
Would you stand? Do you mind sharing or just letting us know if you're in here and a part of?
All right. Well, let's just move on.
Okay.
All right. We got Gerard, Miss Jackie, Christy Puckett, then Stephanie Hand.
Good morning. Brother, thank you for coming out. Known you for years with your family, grew up with your family in Greensboro. So good to see you did from Atlanta to bring you in. My question is, assuming that money is raised, it's going to be great from the lending institutions to the $250 billion for JCSU. $250 million that we're raising outside of that for the other initiatives. Assuming that's grant money, if there been any consideration of raising it as social bonds so that people can get so that institutions can get kind of low cost returns, but at the same time, some of that money could be funneled to small businesses to help build projects on improvements.
Yeah, no, good question. So of that, $100 million is grant and low interest loans and equity, very low interest loans and equity. There are funding for low interest loans and equity.
Okay. All right, we have Miss Jackie, Christy, then Stephanie Hand.
My question was gonna be, who was the pronoun they? You indicated that it was the leadership, like Board of Trustees of Smith.
So it went to the board, and again they rejected it, they approved it, and then they rejected it. The board.
Let me just say this, take a point of privilege. That's a form within itself. That portion. So Ms. Lori, is it? Lori and Mr. Coley, if you guys would consider coming back, because as you know, that's a hot button issue. I guess now that we know a lot of people in this room are residents of the West Side, and we're all passionate about that. So, if you are willing to come back to kind of speak to that, we would love to just have you.
More than happy to come back, but I would also ask that you ask the board.
No, absolutely. That's part of it.
And explain to you why they decided not to do this deal.
Absolutely.
But we'll be more than happy to come. I mean, we engaged architects. We had the building architecturally drawn. We had the funding for the most part lined up. Because of the community we grew up in, we didn't have to do this. We wanted to do it because it's the right thing to do. And again, we were going to go on the hook for $50 million and go ask any other developer, would they put $50 million in a building in that part of town?
So we got, all right, Ms. Jackie, Christy Puckett, then Ms. Stephanie Hand.
I was trying to get clarification on that piece. My question is, have you already done an annual report so that we can get some answers to some questions?
Yeah, so they're working on an annual report for the Mayor's Racial Equity Initiative. Christy.
Thank you. I have another question. So we know that you said these initiatives are meant to address racial inequity and using the business community to kind of do that. So what is your plan? We know that a huge driver of racial disparities in our community is the criminal legal system, police involvement. And so $80,000 for people sounds good, but does that include people living with criminal records? What is the business community going to do to address those people who are put outside of the workforce traditionally, normally? That's the most marginalized in our community. It's not the kids. Some of the kids coming out of school, but it's most of the kids who are walking around who have been displaced out of school and who do need the access to those jobs. So what is your plan to address young people just in general living with criminal history to work in these industries?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Again, we focus on 4 things, but let me tell you what we're doing at Bright Hope Capital, we're doing personally, and what I'm doing at EY. I've hired people with criminal records, offenders that are reentrants, and paying them extremely well to come back into it. At Bright Hope Capital, we are taking current individuals that were either formerly incarcerated or currently incarcerated, and we're helping them get their CDLs, and we're hiring them. And so, again, I can't address everything and all the issues that's going on. What we did was, as a community, we focused on those 4 things. But I would tell you, where I put my own capital, both social and financial capital, and Bright Hope Capital, and you can go talk to those young men and women that's getting a second chance, and they got their CDLs, we got them jobs, and they're making $60,000 and $70,000 a year. What everybody else is doing, I can't control. I can only control what I can control. And you go talk to those kids, those young men and women, you go talk to their family, and they're saying they're making $60,000, $70,000 a year driving. If they don't drive for us, they drive for Coke, Pepsi, Amazon. But we're giving them a second chance. And some of them that are currently incarcerated, we pick them up and we take them there to our facility to train them. So it's a good question, but this is a community issue. This is just, you got to get a lot. I can't remember, Lori, what was the 48,000 currently incarcerated individual that's going to come out. They're going to need jobs. I mean, but I can't control 48,000. I can tell you what I'm doing, but I would ask everybody in this room, what are you doing individually? What are you doing to hire these individuals? What are you doing to motivate these individuals? What are you doing to train these individuals? What are you doing to mentor these individuals? But I'm doing, I need to do this because this is, for me, is personal. This is outside of my day job. This is my own personal capital. This is my own personal time. It's the right thing to do. But I would ask everybody in here, what are you doing? Not you, but I'm just saying in general, what is everybody in here doing? But I can tell you, I can give you these young men and women, you go ask them, how have their lives have changed by what we have done in giving them these jobs and getting them in a new path.
All right, so for people getting frustrated with me, we have Stephanie, Miss Carlenia, Lori, Laura, Miss Mary, and Mr. St. Louis. All right?
I need another cup of coffee. Go ahead. No, I'm good.
Malcolm, I just want to say thank you for what you are doing in community and understanding the gravity of the needs. My question, since I only get one, you mentioned about the hardest part about this is implementation. And what are some of the milestone measurables that are indicating for the 4 areas that this is heading in the right direction? And what do you do when you determine that you need to pivot on that with the leaders? I know you're not leading all of those 4 areas, but and then identify who are the leaders that are leading those implementation areas.
Yeah, no, great question. How do we measure the outcomes? One, Johnson C. Smith, those kids getting internships, mentors, and they're getting jobs. So for Johnson C. Smith, they got, they received $82 million cash. They got the $82 million. They've hired a lot of new administration and faculty members. And so again, we're coming out with a sort of a state of the union where we're at. So we'll be able to show measurements. We'll be able to show by zip code where the 22,000 laptop went. And I guarantee you they didn't go to 28211 or 282. Exactly. By zip code. And as well as internet connectivity, we would show by zip code where they went. Those 20-something thousand, give or take whatever that final number is. Again, I'm not in the details of all the work streams. So we'll be able to show those outcomes, the corridors of opportunity, and the monies that have been provided to these Black and brown businesses in the corridor. You can go on the Foundation for the Carolina website and see where they just awarded $5.9 million to Black and brown businesses. But we need to have a comprehensive a report, which we're working on that right now to show all of the outcomes that are happening. But this has to be a community collective effort. Because if we're going to go back to the business community, we're going to need for all of us to be together and be able to show that we had, and we've shown these outcomes. So good. So we're coming with a document that's going to highlight the successes to date. Keep in mind, we're trying to address structural issues that has happened over centuries. If you think this is going to be resolved in a year or two, then you're lost already. It's going to take centuries to overcome the structural issues that have put Black and brown marginalized communities where they're at. And so we're going to come out with a document. We're going to show all the successes that we've had and provide that to the community.
And community engagement with that somehow or another.
Absolutely. Community is engaged.
You know, for the outcomes. What I'm
For the outcomes.
is forums or something to kind of get that information out to the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will say, for somewhat of clarity, Bruce Clark is in charge of Center for Digital Equity, who has a large portion of those laptops to distribute. And I know one of the channels is just contacting 311 and requesting one. The community events, I've had a Vibe Call Fresh and a Vibe Outside. We've given a number of them to children as well. No questions asked. Just, they at the library as well. So, if you want to figure out how to get a laptop, you can basically call 311.
And then if you don't mind, because y'all E2D, I gave them 1,500 square feet of my space that I pay for them to distribute these laptops in a high district area in the South End where they are collecting these new computers and some computers that they're remodeling or refixing. But they sit in the E&Y space that I pay for, and giving, and so.
Name that again. Say it again.
E2D, yeah, and so I gave them 1,500 square feet of free space to coordinate the distribution of these laptops.
All right, we have Ms. Carlenia, Ms. Lori, Ms. Laura, Ms. Mary, Mr. St. Louis, and then Ms. Tina.
Okay, as far as computer laptops, I have actually been at several events, especially in the high schools where students have received. So I can attest to the fact that they have been distributed. As far as what you're saying about building the Black Wall Street, that is something, Malcolm, you should not be sitting up there by yourself, but we should have other individuals who are involved in saying no. We want to know why no. And I'm glad you said that we would have them come back and have that discussion, because I do know that there was a group that wanted to do something that would involve Black investment, okay? So I acknowledge that. My question is, what do you define, and it's not about you, it's about the people who were involved in this racial equity fund. And again, I applaud it. I think it's something that has been done that is more than it's ever been done. But when we talk about, you say it's a collective community effort. What I want you to understand is that community, especially those who live along the Vegas Fort corridor and the surrounding areas, we don't see it as that. We don't see that we were engaged or involved. That's right. I love the fact that you're doing internships and jobs for students. I applaud that. But when you talk about the community aspect, it cannot just be the business community comes in and decide what they want for us. Now, granted, whatever you gave Johnson Smith, what I'm asking for is what I would like to see in writing. And I'm very, I have a degree, and it's a pretty good degree, but ... What are the initiatives? ... Who was and who will be involved, and what are the milestones? And yes, what are the outcomes? I need that. Very simple. I mean, I need to be able to digest that. I don't know. I graduated from there. I live, I work, I play, I'm involved. I don't know any of that about the mayors. No one can explain what you're doing today. You're sitting here and you're trying to engage and tell us, but I see better than I hear.
Yeah. Yeah. No, good question. And we would definitely put that in that in that document. to ensure to show you the milestones, show what we're doing with this $82.5 million at Johnson C. Smith and what are the goals. Now, $25 million is going into the endowment. $25 million is going into the endowment, which is, I think their endowment is $40 million. So we're going to, $50 million. So we're going to increase their endowment by 50%. So.
And I would like to know, I would like to be the one to help me spread this out to the community. And I need it in writing. You can sit there all day and complain, and I'm hearing you, but I'm not hearing you.
Yeah. I need you to hear me.
All right, so we'll establish a time to return to.
We're gonna get it.
So benchmark. You want benchmark? All right. So now we have again Lori, Miss Laura, Miss Mary, Mr. St. Louis, and Tina. Miss Tina.
Eric, you don't have a question for me? You look like you don't have my questions from Eric.
I do not have a question for Malcolm. I just have more of a statement. I'm a graduate I'm a proud HBCU alum. I'm Norfolk State University. And I grew up in rural Virginia. And one of the things, I grew up on a farm. One of the things I learned at a young age that you must take care of home. I said in different forums, and I listened to alumni, graduates from HBCUs. And one of the things that we have done as a whole, we have failed our universities. We have failed our universities because we do not financially support our universities. We do not go back and ensure that the students are prepared. A lot of us are teachers. I joined the #1 phenomenal sorority in the world. And I see some of my sorority sisters in here that we have each other because we know there's no other like our sisterhood. So we have a responsibility to go back on those campuses. And if there are programs that have been eliminated, then that's we as alumni of the universities, we take a stance. We do march. We can march on the yards to the president's office and we can take a stance. So for me, being almost a 50-year-old graduate of Norfolk State Universities, when I sit in these forums, my skin crawls because oftentimes we want to have someone else to take care of home. And we have a responsibility to take care of it. And I'm truly blessed. Malcolm has been my mentor since 1996 when I graduated and started my career at Deloitte. He has shown me the rope. I've had my ups and downs. He's been there to support me. But through it all, I learned at an early age working on a farm with my dad that we live in a capitalistic society.
That's right. There you go.
That's all I have.
Amen.
All right.
Thank you, but we don't normally allow you to do commentary like that. I appreciate that. Thank you, but that's not normally allowed here.
Yeah, right. And also, everybody knows this is not a personal attack.
No, I love it.
It's really
you know, these rooms get hot.
Look.
Now we have Miss Laura. Tanya, was your hand raised? Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, Wall Street. Wall Street.
You don't get to where I'm at in corporate America without being able to take grenades. Trust me, as an African American, trust me, this is softball. Trust me.
Okay.
This is softball. Let's play hardball. Okay. We can play hardball. And to Lori's point, you know, I'm one of the top givers in Johnson C. Smith history. And we talk about all these folks that went to Johnson C. Smith. I didn't go to Johnson C. Smith. I'm getting recognized for all the money that I personally gave to Johnson C. Smith. To Lori's point, make sure we're taking care of home before we start throwing grenades. I'm getting recognized on April the 15th for my personal dollars that I've given Johnson C. Smith. I had no connection to Johnson C. Smith, but it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do because it's an institution that's educating kids that look like me, a community that I grew up in where there was no hope. And so whatever I can do to help Johnson C. Smith and other HBCUs and other communities of color, I'm going to do it. So this is softball.
Okay.
This is softball.
Okay. I have the next question. Yeah. My question that I'm thinking about Wall Street and the 90 people, the churches, are the churches involved? That's part of my question. The other part is the area, the no that you received about not accepting the suggestion or the recommendation that you all were going to try to establish this Wall Street. Now you gave us a name, but was it was it just one person or one organization or one corporation that said no? Because there are so many churches up and down Beatty'sford Road, and there are other businesses, and there's a lot of property up and down Beatty'sford Road. Is it? I just don't understand. Can you help me to understand what the churches have done? Were they involved? Are there other areas on Beatty'sford Road? We see some development going on. You know, we see some things changing, but was it just one spot that you all were focusing on, or just one block that you all were focusing on?
So good question. As I mentioned, it was faith-based involved on Beatty'sford Road that was involved in that coalition of 90 individuals. So faith-based was involved. The area that, first of all, let's keep in mind, we're spending $50 million of our money. And I would love for you guys to go and spend your own money. If you want to go and build a project, I will support you 100%. When we found this piece of property, it was ideal. It was one piece of property we found that was ideal to do what we wanted to do. And we were going to spend our $50 million to build this piece of property. And we had a deal. Again, I could be asked a million questions, but I would tell you, go talk to Johnson C. Smith. We had a deal.
It was a board of directors of Johnson C. Smith. It was an A&P property. He's not telling it. But
I see where this is going. They want to sell it.
It goes back to what you just said about the kids, about the education program. You know, we ask the question, when I've asked the question, then what you do, you go home and you let it go. We need to go back and ask the question about education and the teaching program, and we need to do, like she said, walk. But this is the same thing that happened to them. They had the money, but it's a group of people, same group of people that make the decisions. And what have they done with the property? Nothing. Okay.
So I can never cut you off because you are, you're a legend. And but we have boy, it's tough for me. Fight for my life up here. Okay. So we have Miss Mary, Mr. St. Louis, Miss Tina, Miss Ken, and Miss Christy Puckett.
I didn't get my.
Oh, that was. I'm sorry. You brought it up. You brought the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, Miss Laura.
You said that the clergy, the churches were involved.
We didn't have faith-based involved.
Okay, I heard what she said. What the property that you all were targeting, was it not any more property in that on the Beatty'sford Road area or that corridor, or even West Boulevard, that you all could have targeted to do a Wall Street in the African American community?
This was the ideal location. I mean, again, I would welcome anybody else that I agree. It shouldn't just be us. I welcome all of you guys to go out there and develop the corridors of opportunity. We found a location. We were going to use our own money to build. And that was the ideal location for the size and complexity of the building. The only thing I told the architect was, I want you to build a building that you would see in South End, Ballantyne, or South Park, and put it there on Beatty'sford Road. That was the only criteria I gave them. And so I would challenge, and there was a restaurant. I had a company that was going to build out a restaurant and grant money and provide the restaurant to people of color in that community to own in that building. We were going to build a center of entrepreneurship and innovation where anybody in that community can come for free and innovate a business that Bank of America, I'll go ahead and tell you, was going to sponsor. Anybody in that community could come for free and build. One of the things we uncovered on COVID around a lot of small businesses, that they did not have their back office in order. Their financials wasn't in order. Their legal stuff wasn't in order. This was an opportunity for those businesses to come to this Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship to get their accounting done for free, business plan done for free, legal work done for free. And we were going to have a part of the building that was going to be available for the community to convene for free. Yeah. So what else do they want me to do?
I think the fact that the people in here just hearing that for the first time, that's what's so mind blowing. But anyway, we can't.
Some say they've heard before.
All right. Well, we got, and again, guys, we're over the 9:30 mark, so we got to keep questions and answers around 30 seconds to give everybody a chance. So now we got Miss Mary.
Timekeeper, please. We have
Miss Natalie.
timekeeper.
Yes, Miss Natalie is our timekeeper.
I'm just blown away by all of it, you know.
Yeah, this is wild.
I guess what I want to say is that I had a misunderstanding of what you were coming to talk about, or not what you're coming to talk about, but the whole thing that you're doing, right? Because I'm thinking Ladies Ford Road and businesses along that kind of thing. I didn't realize that those were your 4 main areas of focus, and that the big one was Johnson C. Smith. So that just goes to show that I didn't get the correct information.
Yeah, and to answer your question again, the mayor had a vision, big bold vision of 4 things, and that's the Mayor's Racial Equity Initiative. Now, when we got off into this other conversation about Wall Street, was because I was asked the question what we were doing around Beatties Ford Road and some of the corridors of opportunity. But make no mistake, no other city in this country, because I cover the entire country, is doing what we did here in Charlotte. So that's something we should be proud of. And again, should we not challenge what we're doing? Absolutely. But we should also ask, what are we doing to step in to help? Everybody can play a role in this.
Well, I'm trying to help, but I don't know how to get in there to help.
The next question.
Yeah. All right, guys. Mr. St. Louis.
I'm in a unique situation because I'm a commercial real estate broker here in Charlotte, my own firm, and it's a little funny for me because I grew up in Boston, and I went through this situation in Boston, being in business in Boston 30 years and seeing that grow, and I see it happen in Charlotte and growth. Our businesses are being set up to fail here because when I came here, it was $18 a square feet for profit. It's $38 plus, right? I don't know how many restaurants can survive without a bar in there. If you don't have a bar, I'm telling you right now, because I've been there, so I know that's not a prospect. We have issues with the fact that we have areas that there is no HUD in commercial, right? There's nobody saying that you can lease this property or not. There's a lot of racist situation happening with people that are capable and not getting leases. So it's unfortunate that you had a situation going that would have given a Black Wall Street given an opportunity for small business to operate. Let me say one more thing. I think we get caught up with small business. Our community are not small business. Our community is micro. And if you're not focusing on micro business and understanding how to help micro build, how they grow, then you're out of it because communities are made up of micro business. They're made up of 5 or less people, usually family oriented, and so forth and so on.
We need you to get to your question.
So basically, I know when the Wall Street thing was different from what we came to talk about, but I just wanted to make that statement, and I'm hoping that there's a way for the city to maybe focus more in on micro business, helping them operate and grow and get capital in the city.
Yeah, we need you back in the room when we have city officials here. You can ask them that same thing. We have them here quite often, so come back, Mr. St. Louis.
But let me just 30 seconds to address that. What I've said to the business community is don't just focus on micro business because then you become part of the problem. Because you look at Charlotte, there's only 2 African American businesses that have over $100 million. We should take those micro businesses to be macro businesses to be mega businesses. And for a city, it's the 15th largest city in this country, they only have 2 mega Black businesses is a disgrace.
Name them out loud. Name them.
There's 2. Go check CBJ. Eric can tell you who they are. But the point is, when we only focus our community to be micro, then we've limited the growth of our business. So it should be, how do we have macro and mega businesses? And as Ms. Bradley mentioned, we've taken one company, what we did personally, from a $20 million business, we're going to announce that it's going to be $60-something million in 2 years. And we estimate that that business will be a $100 million business by the end of this year. Again, using our social capital, our own financial capital, removing the barriers, and helping these businesses grow and scale. So, but when we only talk about micro businesses, we're limiting who we are. So micro businesses are good. Mom and pops are good. I love mom and pop. But let's talk about the whole university of business.
All right, y'all, for clarity, the Hornets and Mercs, I guess. All right, Tina.
And this is just, I just need some clarification.
Yes.
Because you said that we're all, you welcome any of us to help. You said this coalition of 90 individuals consists of business leaders, higher ed, faith leaders, nonprofits. How many of those individuals are actual community organizers that live and work in the streets with these with folks?
Yeah.
How come those folks are? I mean, I want to know that those folks are also included in that coalition.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me get with in that report and see if we can list the individuals, the 90 that were involved in those. But again, this is a community effort. It's not just those 90, but what are we all doing individually to shape and drive and grow the community?
In the room, then we can tell you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Ken.
You go to the big house and ask Master for something. Folks in the slave quarters, Master's gonna do what's in his best interest. I suggest you take a big look and think about the JCSU board. For instance, Museum Villages attracts as numerical numbers for Johnson C. Smith University. The A&P sat across the street there for decades and did nothing with it. Gentrification has come in and locked up all of the land that was available to them over the last 4 administrations and boards that didn't demonstrate any vision for growth for that university. JCSU is part of its own problem. Now, I have an endowed scholarship at Johnson C. Smith University, so let me get that out of the way first. I also was just recently named to the Hall of Fame. Let me get that out of the way first. So, for me talking, welcome to it. Now, do you know Bob Johnson?
Yep.
Former owner.
Know him well. Yep.
Have you talked to him about his attitudes in Charlotte and progressive like you're talking about doing? And do you know Chauncey Mayfield?
Yep.
Have you talked to those two brothers about what's happening in Charlotte? Because both of them were here and left. And there were reasons why they left. I suggest you may want to talk to them if you haven't already about the basic.
Unpacking his questions a lot. I don't control Johnson C. Smith board. I don't want their board.
Your money there, you want to put your money somewhere. I think you're smart enough to know what are my chances of getting some return on that investment.
And I'm getting some return. I got great kids I hired that are going, and I know Bank of America got kids that they've hired. So I don't control their board, but what I can do is to make sure that these kids have pathways to jobs of the future, so they can get out and make these 80,000 jobs, take care of their family, give back to their community, be mentors to everyone else, and do all those great things.
Johnson C. Smith has always been a path to success. Always has. From liberal arts to sciences to math and technology. We built a STEM center. We couldn't even afford to finish the building because the administration and its board decided they want to be a STEM school. They have destroyed liberal arts at Johnson C. Smith University for preference to STEM, which they have been unable to afford and which they will not be able to teach educators who have to teach these kids to become whatever they're going to become.
All right.
So I may sound like a hoodoo in Johnson. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's my university. My blood runs blue. My heart is golden. I care about Johnson City.
And one second.
People like you.
Yeah. Well, let me address something that you said. I can't control 15, 20, 30 years ago, but let me tell you about. Let me tell you about. Yeah. Let me tell you about the folks that I've gotten to know in relationships with, whether it's Gene Woods, what he's doing at Atrium, and what he's doing for that university, what he's doing to get those students jobs. What Marvin Ellison at Lowe's, he created we're creating a retail major. He's hiring those kids. And Marvin's been here 5 years. Gene has been here 7 years. I've been here 10 years. And so I can tell you what we are doing. Marvin gave $10 million to the Mayor's Racial Equity Initiative. Most of it, I think all of it went to Johnson C. Smith. And so I can tell you the new crop of leaders that are in this community, we've stepped up. But it shouldn't just be us. For those that've been here for 30, 40, 50 years, it's a community effort to be successful. So I know.
All right.
My 30 seconds.
Quickly. Christy, Stephanie, Jackie, and Miss Carlene. Then we got to conclude for today.
I'm gonna be very quick. So you've heard us, the people in the room have lots of concerns about the type of community engagement that you have. So what are your plans moving forward to ensure that you address those critiques and include voices of people who live in Batesport Road, the people who are in the streets, people who understand the many ways in which racial equity needs to be structurally addressed through business, through your initiatives. I think that when you don't have diverse voices in the room, then your analysis is oftentimes incomplete. So moving forward, you've heard the critiques today. What do you plan on doing to ensure that those critiques are addressed?
Yeah, so if you look at the 4 initiatives, Johnson C. Smith, Johnson C. Smith and its board, whether you agree with them or not, they are driving that initiative with outside help from the funding committee. And so Johnson C. Smith, the city is running the corridors of opportunity, so the city owns that. And then, as was mentioned, Bruce Clark and the Center of Digital Equity is running the digital divide piece. And then the Alliance is going to run employer commitment piece and ensuring that these individuals, these kids, these young men and women are getting jobs and internships. So there are folks that are running these different priority areas. And again, there was 90 plus individuals in this community leaders that were involved in this.
All right. 30 seconds, Miss Stephanie, Miss Jackie, and Miss Carlene. 30 seconds.
30 seconds for me. Black Wall Street, although it did not get resurrected on Batesport, is that something that you see is needed in the city? And are there opportunities to look at other areas that have the things that fit the mold in which you, for criteria standpoint? Because I don't want to see it die, but.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. It's on his lifeline. It's not dead. It's on his lifeline. We've talked about a potential location. The A&P site, since they brought it up, was the ideal location. They just built the light rail right in front of it. I mean, it was just an ideal location. You know, the investment we were going to make was a huge investment. No other development in this community would make that investment, period. None. And so to take a handful of us, predominantly African-American organization, to put our own earned capital in there, I mean, I don't have a lot of $50 million just to throw around. And I don't know a lot of people that do. Oh, you do?
No, I have something for you to do with it.
Oh. And so answer is I don't know. I mean, because it has to, and again, you have to have a bunch of different partners. As I mentioned, we're going to have a retail banking operation there. Can we get them to go somewhere else? I don't know. We had just about a great number of organizations that was going to do marketing in the building to help reduce the cost. They have their name throughout the building. Will they go somewhere else? I don't know. And again, we spent a lot of time and equity in this. We went from no to yes to no over a matter of a bunch of months. And again, we all have families, we have day jobs, and et cetera. I think that question should be asked and answered by, the folks at Johnson C. Smith. Why did they put us there? I would tell you at the end of the day, I would tell you at the end of the day, they said that they felt that they can hold on to that piece of property and get more out of it down the road.
All right. Okay. Again,
Now we know.
yeah, Mr. Coley, if you could keep your answers to 30 seconds. Last.
They asking me all these tough
I know.
questions.
Miss, we got to get out of this room. Miss Jackie and Miss Carlene, you're gonna close it out.
Yes, I wanted to, Right Hope Capital, we got 2 projects. Do you have a third one?
We have 3. We have the academy, the schooling for CDL, where we take mainly formerly incarcerated, and then we have the construction company, and then we have the hauling company. And again, these are very intensive businesses. I mean, we had to put millions of dollars in both of those businesses, mainly personal money, again, to help our community and attacking different systemic systems. For an example, we pay 100% health care. Name another company that pay 100% health care to their employees.
Wow. Okay.
All right, we got I'm gonna make this announcement. Ms. Laura McClady said we got a few more minutes, so we don't have to rush out as I thought we did previously. So we're gonna take Ms. Carlene.
I can stay all day long.
Right,
I can stay all day long.
That was rude of me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Carlene.
Kim expressed it very well, and we love Johnson C. Smith. I don't always feel that decisions that are made by the boards, I want this one changed, are decisions that are beneficial. There's more than just that. Ken just alluded to the fact, Mount Carmel, what did we do with that? There's a lot of things that we haven't. What I'm sick and tired of is opportunities coming to the west side, and people say, why can't, well, have you looked at West Boulevard? Stop looking at West Boulevard. We need these on Davisford Road. We need them in our corridor because it's called economic development. And we need what you're talking about. So what we do is we need to bring members of the board here. We need to ask questions about the education program. We need to ask about the walking. That A&P property was donated, given to them by the Duke Endowment. It's not like they have put money, and they've been gonna do this, gonna do this, and nothing has been done. So what you're talking about doing is something that we need in our community. I don't care if we need it. And everybody wants to put it Eastland Mall, then we complain. Or they want to put it Valentine, they can't even crowd anything in. Something of that magnitude might bring, because nobody, y'all can say what you want, but Publix and Harris Teeter, they ain't coming unless you have some viable investments on that corridor. They're not coming. They'll crowd into Valentine. So what I'm saying is this is a great place, this forum, and we need to have more people here. Y'all, everybody need to each one bring one. What Mayor Edelman might say, each one reach one here to voice that these are the things that we want. And stop saying that it didn't happen because of this. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. I knew. But everything about it is just as bad. But now there are more of us that know. We have got to say why. We've got to ask the tough question. Why?
Can I address that question, please? Yeah. It's a quick response. Get the board chair, get the Johnson C. board chair up here. Oh, sorry.
I said, don't tell me that no more. They have 2 employees, and I'm glad we have Reese's ice cream or whatever. Somebody said we have a pizza place. They have 3 employees. I'm tired of that, y'all.
So, great question. To answer your question, I think you need the board chair for Johnson C. Smith to sit right here and answer that question.
We have a
Okay, okay.
we have a new president coming in.
Okay.
So let's make sure that whoever they're interviewing, that we let them know these are the things that that you're talking about. We love Johnson C. Smith, but these are the things that we're concerned about. So if you're not with the community and you're not willing to change and move forward, and there's this mindset, especially among people who look like me, that we gonna keep our stuff. For what?
Let's go ahead. And I was going to say, you know, we wish that we could make this an open roundtable discussion, and we only have about 10 or 15 minutes to be in here, but we really need to hone it down a little bit. Do we have anyone else that have a question?
Mayor.
Okay,
Ms.
Mary,
Mayor,
you have a question.
I had a question as well. Could you just describe in a little deeper detail some of the programmatic aspects of the Big Four?
The Big Four.
The four initiatives for the program.
Yeah. So the corridors of opportunity was over $100 million worth of investments, both grant and low cost equity and debt, to help scale and grow Black and brown businesses in the 6 corridors of opportunities. And again, they just gave out $5.9 million to micro businesses. Go to the foundation website. The digital divide is to make Charlotte the most digital connected city in the country. Based on the study, 55,000 computer devices were needed and 40,000 connectivity of households to the internet and the literacy piece. And again, they've given out, tens of thousands of computers already. And then for Johnson C. Smith, it was to make it a top academic institution and focus on jobs that the community were looking to hire.
What is the supportive program approach to getting those outcomes? Making Johnson C. Smith talk. Well, what are some of those programmatic approaches to make sure those outcomes are?
Hiring new faculty, elevating the current faculty, internships, mentoring these young men and women that we were going to be hiring. As I said, I hired a few interns this past summer, got mentors around them because they were just like me, first generation, to make sure that they maturated into corporate America appropriately. So everybody. I know Bank of America is doing quite a lot around internships, hiring these young men and women, and making sure that the wraparound services, as they move from, because they were many of them are like me, they're going from their first generation and they're going into corporate. Do they have the support around them? And I know that we were building supporting cast around them to be successful as they go into in corporate America. Okay. So there are the programmatic pieces of what we were trying to do.
Ms. Mary and Ms. Ken, we'll close it out.
Thank you for being here. We do appreciate you.
Hopefully you invite me back.
Okay.
You ain't coming.
Oh my God, this is the first time I've heard about this. This is the very first time. And I know Stephen Bull. And when I get home, I'm going to call him. Hey, I'm going to call him to voice my opinion.
Go ahead, Mary. Go ahead, Mary.
I know him, and I'm sorry this is the first time I've heard about it. I should have heard about this long before today, okay? But you said something about what can the community do? What are you all doing? But see, I don't have $10 million. I don't have $1 million. So what, yes, I went to South Park. So anyway, what suggestions do you have? Because I am the community leader. I'm a community leader in my community, and I try to keep my community informed of things. So what is it that I can do with my community to make a difference? Because I can't do the money thing.
Yeah, and it's not all about money. Money is an important piece, right? I think we all agree that. But you got time, you got talent, and you're using your time and your talent to help drive change in the community. And so again, it's a collective effort, and it's going to take a village to make sustainable changes in the community. And so I would just say, continue to stay involved as a community leader. And it sounds like there's a lot of passion around Johnson C. Smith and the Beatties Ford area in that particular corridor, and really holding those constituents accountable in those communities. Get in with Steve. Get with Stephen.
Re-electing the same, people who don't really truly represent.
Okay. Mr. Ken, you want to close us out?
Yep.
30 seconds, please.
Okay. Since you said you could stay here all day and they don't want to stay here all day, join me after the meeting at Archive and meet Sharice Terry. And there are a lot of other things and people like her. She's truly something special. And she didn't use your money, she didn't use hood money, she didn't use city money, and she's got a very successful pharmacy, coffee shop. So if you care to join me, I'll be at Archive.
A good fraternity brother of mine, I'm more than happy to join you. May need to repledge you though, but but no, we can have that conversation. I got my wood in the look. I got I got my wood in the car. We can pledge him over. But anyway, we can have a cup of coffee after this.
All right, guys, that will conclude this pledge process, and welcome Brother Molcomb Coley to the Tuesday morning forum fraternity. It was tough, but you made it. Across the burning sand. It was easy. Camel walk.